It were just afore Battle of Hastings, and protagonists were waiting to start. King Harold were giving some praise to his troops to try and cheer up the dull hearts. They'd had a right week of it so far. Up to York and back they'd had to gallop, and they'd fought a big battle at Stamford Bridge and given Harold Hardrada a wallop. So his army were all bloody knackered. They were sore in both body and foot, and they hadn't had much to eat either, 'cause local McDonald's were shut. Still, Harold had picked a good site for the fray on top of old Senlac Hill, and he thought if he managed to gee up his men, and still lots of Normans they'd kill. He took a quick look at the Normans. They looked wicked, professional and keen, and at side of his mud-spattered slovenly crew, for French folk, they looked fairly clean. He saw big William the Bastard fannying round on his horse, and he heard him shout something in Norman that, despite his poor French, sounded coarse. So he turned to a man in the front rank, his big Danish axe at his side. "How stands the shield wall with you, my good man?" the dauntless King Harold he cried. "What can you do with that axe, my good man?" So the chap puts his hand in his pocket, pulls out some lettuce and fennel and such like, with some cucumber, parsley and rocket. He chucks them all up into air like, and he chops of them all up ere they dropped, and he fills up his helmet with a nice little salad, as in there each piece will it plopped. "A present, my lord," said the warrior, "and tonight, when in victory we feast, please enjoy this gift as a starter, in the hope that my honour increase." Well, the troops started cheering like thunder. That went rather well, thought the king, and next he strode up to a swordsman, and his praises he started to sing. "Give us a show of your skill with that blade." So the chappie pulls out a dead rabbit that he'd somehow managed to keep tucked away up the left sleeve of his habit. His sword it flashed upwards and outwards, reflecting the sun's rays so hot, and before his eyes full of startled surprise it was skinned, chopped and dressed for the pot. "To the victor the spoils," said the warrior, as he lay it down by the king's feet. "Please remember the deeds of this warrior as tonight you sit down at your meat." The troops now, they cheered even louder, and they started to jump up and down as Harold went up to a spearman, a big man with a face gnarled and brown. "What can you do with that spear, my good man? Can thou cast that thing far, good and true?" "Aye, that I can," said the soldier. "Just let me show you what I can do." He threw the spear up to the heavens. It was lost for a while in the sky, but each man held his breath as it soared back to earth. Then each gave a piercing cry, for quivering there on the spear shaft just at the king's feet in the muck were there, if you please, 3 fine fat geese, a partridge and 2 brace of duck. Each man in the force roared like a madman as king then to arch as he strode, and he stopped in front of an odd-looking chap whose face it were colour it rode. "Now then, good archer," said Harold, "why not give me a taste of your skill? Summat to put wind up them Normans." And Archer said, "Right then, I will." Well, he fumbled about in his quiver, and he knocked up an arrow to its string, and then he sort of let go a bit quickly, and arrow shot off with a spring. Well, it shot like a bird past King's ear oil and narrowly missed his old horse, and then it ricocheted back off an axe blade and flew through the middle of his force. There were men ducking down all over. The buggers were diving in groups as that arrow flew back at eye level. It were parting the air of his troops. The thing it caused such a commotion, it were every poor man for his sen, and then it bounced off another man's helmet and back towards King once again. That arrow, it flew straight towards him. I could see it come straight from afar. As it sailed through the air, tension mounted, and his men with one voice shouted, "Ah!" But Harold, he stood there undaunted. His courage he never would yield. And it finally landed 3 inches from his heart, where it thankfully just placed his shield. "Bugger me," whispered Harold in silence, and his men were all in disarray. And Archer was stood looking sorry for his sen, thinking, "Christ, there'll be devil to pay." But just as that moment the horn sounded, and the Normans made haste up the track. So they hastily got shield wall together again and prepared to repel the attack. King Harold, he frowned at the archer, and his eye it was steely and grim. And he called for one of his lieutenants over, and he said, "I'll have a quick word about him." "When this battle's over, he's dead," said the king, as up there in his saddle he sat. "But for now, you just keep a good watch over him, else he'll have some bugger's eye out with that."